hello, and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the B segment of episode 54 of The Loud House, Insta-gran. We begin this segment with Albert arriving at the Loud House for dinner, much to the excitement of the Loud siblings. Lincoln reveals to the audience that this particular dinner is important because Albert is bringing a special guest, and we quickly find out that this special guest is Albert's new girlfriend, Myrtle. Myrtle surprises the Loud family by revealing that she already knows the names of all the Loud siblings, and she lists them off in birth order, oldest to youngest. During dinner and after dinner, Myrtle is shown interacting with the Loud family, mostly the Loud siblings, and they're all having a great time together. Eventually, it's time for Albert and Myrtle to return to Sunset Canyon Retirement Home, and the Loud siblings are disappointed that the visit has to end. The Loud siblings bid Albert and Myrtle farewell, and Lori says that Myrtle should visit them again soon. Myrtle says that she just might take them up on that offer. Albert tells the Loud family that he thinks Myrtle is a great person, and he also admits that Seymour had expressed interest in dating Myrtle. The next day rolls around, and the Loud siblings return home, and they're surprised to see Myrtle inside, cleaning the living room with a vacuum cleaner. Myrtle reveals that she found the spare key, which was hidden in the thorn bushes. Myrtle also reveals that she found the bandages. Myrtle says that she was so excited to see the Loud siblings again that she decided to visit sooner rather than later. Myrtle also reveals that she made some homemade sweaters for the Loud siblings. These homemade sweaters all have a message on them, and the message says, "Life is sweeter with a gran-gran." Myrtle admits that she hopes one day the Loud siblings will call her gran-gran, much like how the Loud siblings call Albert Pop-Pop. Now, these homemade sweaters are the first of a series of events that lead to the Loud siblings becoming annoyed by Myrtle's presence. Now, these other events are Lucy finding that her bed has been replaced with a pink bed, or at least her bed has been changed to now have a pink color scheme, and Lucy also finds out that the cobwebs have been taken down. Lynn finds out that her lucky jerseys have been cleaned. Lisa is in the middle of a video conference when Myrtle enters Lisa and Lily's room. So Myrtle talks to the people on the other side of the video conference, and Myrtle is also trying to clean some beakers with chemicals in them, and this causes an explosion to happen. Myrtle then gives Lincoln a haircut using a bowl. Myrtle uses spit to remove mud and makeup from the faces of Lana and Lola, respectively. And then Lori and Lenny find out that episodes of a show they like, Nail Polish Wars, have been removed from the DVR by Myrtle. So after these events, Myrtle is heading back to Sunset Canyon Retirement Home, and she says that she will see the Loud siblings again very soon before she leaves. The Loud siblings all agree that they find Myrtle to be annoying, and they don't, they all agree that they found Myrtle to be annoying, and they find out that Myrtle had accidentally left her day planner, and when they look through Myrtle's day planner, they find out that Myrtle plans to go to several events that they're going to have in the future, and And this leads to the Loud siblings agreeing that they need to figure out what they're going to do, because they don't think that they can handle having Myrtle be around all the time like what just happened today. And Lola eventually suggests something. Lola suggests that they break Albert and Myrtle up. At first, most of the Loud siblings seem to object to Lola's suggestion, but eventually the Loud siblings, after that though, the Loud siblings start to come around to the idea of breaking Albert and Myrtle up. The Loud siblings try to rationalize this by saying that they think Albert is such a great grandfather that surely he can find happiness with someone else besides Myrtle. That's how they try to rationalize breaking Albert and Myrtle up. And Lori questions how would they go about it, even if they were going to go through with it. And Lincoln remembers how Albert admitted that Seymour had expressed interest in dating Myrtle. So this leads to the Loud siblings coming up with a plan to break Albert and Myrtle up. So the next scene the next scene takes us to Sunset Canyon Retirement Home, and the Loud siblings have set their plan into motion. So Luann has made some lemonade, and she's gone to the area where Seymour is, and Luann puts on an act where she says that she made the lemonade for her grandpa, but her grandpa isn't able to have the lemonade, so she doesn't know what to do with the lemonade without letting it go to waste. So Seymour offers to have some lemonade, and Luann gives Seymour the lemonade, and Seymour comments about how tart the lemonade is, and after he drinks the lemonade, Seymour puckers his lips. And another Loud sibling takes a picture of Seymour while his lips are puckered. In a different part of Sunset Canyon Retirement Home, Lori has disguised herself to make herself look like an old woman. And while wearing this disguise, Lori says that she needs to figure out how to cool her soup down so that she can have her soup. So Myrtle offers to help Lori, not realizing that Lori is Lori. She falls for the disguise, and Myrtle blows on the soup. And another sibling takes a picture of Myrtle while her lips are puckered to blow the soup to cool it off. So after that, the Loud siblings all gather in Vanzilla, just outside of Sunset Canyon Retirement Home, and they create a fake picture. There's the background looks like a romantic table and chairs, and then they add the picture of Seymour and the picture of Myrtle, and then they edit the pictures of Myrtle and Seymour closer together to make it look like Seymour and Myrtle are about to kiss. So that's what the fake picture makes. Yes, the fake picture is made to make it look like Myrtle and Seymour are going to kiss each other. So after the fake picture has been printed, Lynn puts on a ninja outfit, and then Lynn puts the picture in an envelope, and Lynn slides the envelope underneath the doorway to Albert's room. Lynn then returns to Vanzilla to let her siblings know that their task has been completed. And so the Loud siblings are preparing to leave before anyone sees them, but they're not able to do that because Myrtle sees them. And Myrtle figures that they're here for her birthday party. The Loud siblings just decide to play along with this. So the Loud siblings go to the room where the birthday party is going to be held. Myrtle says that they just have to wait for Pop-Pop to arrive. And the Loud siblings, though, are confused because besides Albert, or even if Albert does show up, the only other individuals at the party would be the Loud siblings themselves and Myrtle. And Myrtle admits that there aren't really any other guests. And the Loud siblings are confused about this. They figure, what about Myrtle's family? And Myrtle admits that she doesn't really have much of a family to speak of. Myrtle herself was an only child, and she never got married when she was younger. Myrtle said that she was traveling around a lot when she was younger. And Myrtle also admits that it wasn't until she met Albert that's when she started to miss having a family. And she admits that while she isn't really considered part of the Loud family's real family, she's hoping, or she says that she still feels like they're her real family. Lori then says that that all the siblings need to use the restroom. Myrtle does believe this explanation, or Myrtle believes this this explanation for why they're going to leave for a moment, and Myrtle comments about how they take after Albert in that regard. So the Loud siblings are away from Myrtle, so she can't hear them, and Lori Lori says that Myrtle's story just now actually helps to explain Myrtle spending so much time with them. Lori realizes that because Myrtle never had a family of her own, she's trying to make up for lost time, in Lori's words, by spending so much time with the Loud family. And Lori admits that Myrtle is coming off really strong, but also acknowledges that she means well. And the rest of the Loud siblings do agree with Lori. They start to feel bad for trying to break Albert and Myrtle up. But Lincoln realizes that Lincoln realizes, though, that they already sent the fake picture to Albert's room, so trouble could happen. So the Loud siblings realize that they need to come up with a plan to abort their mission. So, or their original mission. They have to abort the mission that they originally set out to do. So some of the Loud siblings are going to distract Myrtle, some of them are going to try and find Albert and keep him from entering his room, and Lincoln and Lynn are going to enter Albert's room to get rid of the picture. And so when they split up, Lincoln notices that Lynn is already in her ninja outfit again, and Lynn notices that Lincoln's hair is back to its usual hairstyle. So Lincoln and Lynn make it to Albert's room, and after they open the door because it's locked, Lynn uses a walker to open the door because it's locked, but when they go inside, they find that Albert has already seen the fake picture. The fake picture is out of the envelope, and it's been torn up. So keeping this in mind, they realize that Albert has already seen the picture, and then they hear Seymour. They hear Seymour shouting for help elsewhere. So Lincoln and Lynn rush off to where they hear Seymour. It's at the pool. Yes. They head off to the pool and they see that Albert is chasing after Seymour. Albert's trying to attack Seymour because he believes the fake picture. Lincoln and Lynn try to get Albert to listen to them, but he's too angry to listen. And eventually more of the Loud siblings arrive and they see Lincoln and Lynn trying to stop Albert from attacking Seymour. So the Loud siblings do manage to get Albert's attention by admitting that the picture was fake. And they do admit that they were the ones who made the fake picture, and they admit that they were trying to break Albert and Myrtle up. Albert doesn't understand why. He thought they liked Myrtle. And the Loud siblings admit that they were starting to get annoyed by Myrtle spending so much time with them, but then they realize that Myrtle is doing so to make up for lost time because she never had a family of her own. And they also admit that they realize that even though they have a big family doesn't mean that everyone else has a big family. And they do apologize to Albert for the deception, and they hope he can forgive them. Albert returns to his cheerful demeanor, and he assures his grandchildren that he forgives them. He also admits they do have a point that Myrtle can be a bit much at times, according to Albert, but he also admits that's why he loves Myrtle. And And Albert also does apologize to Seymour because he almost attacked him, but Seymour takes it well, or Seymour forgives Albert. And so the Loud siblings and Albert decide that it's time to go to Myrtle's birthday. Oh, and Seymour and Scoots tag along too for the birthday party. So they're at Myrtle's birthday party now, and the Loud siblings call Myrtle Gran Gran when they wish her happy birthday. And Myrtle is happy to hear that they've called her Gran Gran. The Loud siblings then decide that it's time for them to head home, and Myrtle says that she'll stop by the next day. The Loud siblings are nervous when they hear this, but Albert catches this, and Albert convinces Myrtle to hold off until Sunday. He says that he got tickets for an RV show the next day, and Myrtle thinks that that's a good idea. Albert winks to his grandchildren to let them know that he'll try and make sure that Myrtle doesn't show up too often. So the Loud siblings leave while bidding Albert and Myrtle farewell. And Scoots accuses Seymour of wanting her piece of cake because Seymour already had his piece of cake. And Seymour insists that his left eye has a mind of its own to justify why he was looking at Scoots' piece of cake. And that is how we end this segment. So this was the first B segment for Season 3 of Loud House, and it's also the first Season 3 entry to feature Albert, aka Pop Pop, Rita's dad, the Loud children's maternal grandpa. And Albert, yes, I would say in Season 3, Albert does seem to gain a little more prevalence with each season, yeah, I would say Albert's gained a little more prevalence with each season. He initially only had one actual appearance in Season 1, and in Season 2, he had one major role and a few cameos, non-speaking cameos in Season 2. And in Season 3, Albert does get at least one more speaking role besides this one in Season 3, and he does get a few cameos too. So, yeah, I think Albert's been getting more prevalent roles each season, and I'm cool with that because I do like Albert. He's probably one of my favorite characters in the show, and most other fans would agree, or yes, I've noticed most other fans do think Albert is a very likable character, and I can understand why. Albert, he's probably one of the nicest characters in the show. He may very well even be the nicest character in the show. Some fans might argue that. Though this segment also shows that Albert can be an example of Beware the Nice Ones, considering how he was willing to attack Seymour when he was tricked by that fake picture. But Albert also does show himself to be, even though Albert did have that Beware the Nice Ones moment, he was quick to forgive his grandchildren for the deception, and he could understand where they were coming from. And Albert did have the decency to apologize to Seymour too. And yeah, I thought that was, I think this definitely highlights why Albert is a popular character with several fans. Now, yes, this segment also stands out because this is another example of serialized elements in Season 3, or changes in status quo. Now, the first two seasons did have changes in status quo and did have serialized elements, even though The Loud House is mostly an episodic show. But I would say Season 3 has more serialized elements and changes the status quo more so than the first two seasons. And in the case of this segment, the change in status quo, or an example of a serialized element in this segment, was how Albert is now dating. Albert is dating Myrtle, and Myrtle does show up again in later entries, but so far I would say this is Myrtle's only major appearance. It is her only major appearance in Season 3. Yes, she at least has two other appearances in Season 3, but they're non-speaking cameos. But they do acknowledge that Myrtle is a character in The Loud House, and she is dating Albert. So they still acknowledge that detail, even though this is Myrtle's only major Season 3 appearance. But that is a big change in the status quo. And yes, it does clarify that, Or yes, though this segment also did lead to some fans realizing that we never did get an answer for what happened to Albert's wife, Rita's mom. Although most fans seem to agree that the most likely explanation is that Albert is a widower. I mean, that's not necessarily the only possible explanation, but most fans agree that Albert being a widower is probably the most likely explanation. But maybe they will answer what happened to Rita's mom someday in the future, or maybe Rita's mom will be brought up someday in the future. I'm still hoping that they will eventually reveal Albert's last name, Rita's maiden name, one day. So otherwise, so yes, back with Myrtle. Myrtle is introduced in this segment, and Myrtle is shown to be a pleasant individual. Yes, the conflict in this segment did revolve around Myrtle, but Myrtle really meant no ill will during the segment. Myrtle's intentions were good. Lori herself. Yes, Lori did acknowledge in this segment that Myrtle's heart was in the right place, and Myrtle seemed to be oblivious to how she was coming off really strong when spending time with the Loud siblings. And I think this segment, though, does a good job of not really portraying anyone in a bad light, even if some characters might not have made the best choices. On one hand, yes, Myrtle did come off really strong when spending time with the Loud siblings, but she wasn't portrayed in a bad light. She was just portrayed not realizing how she was coming off too strong. And yes, the Loud siblings did make a bad call to try and break up Albert and Myrtle, but it wasn't hard to understand why they were annoyed by Myrtle spending so much time with them. And the Loud siblings did realize the error of the methods they used to try and stop having Myrtle be around them so much, and they were willing to apologize for their actions, and they were trying to make things right. So, yeah, the Loud siblings were portrayed making a bad choice with how they approached the conflict, but they did realize the error of their ways, and they did apologize for it, which is good. And the other detail... yes, that's what I liked. They recognized the importance of both sides. It wasn't hard to understand why Myrtle came off really strong about spending time with them, because she didn't really have much of a family of her own. Even though the Loud family are used to being a big family, not everyone has a big family, and the Loud family had to keep in mind that different people have different reference pools or different experiences in life. And so that's an important lesson. And while the Loud siblings acknowledged that Myrtle's intentions were good, and it wasn't hard to understand why she wanted to spend so much time with them, the Loud siblings were still portrayed, to be understandable why the Loud siblings would be annoyed by Myrtle spending so much time with them. And Albert realized this, or Albert saw this, and we saw that at the end of the segment. Albert saw how the Loud siblings were annoyed by Myrtle spending so much time with them, and Albert did help the Loud siblings out by offering to take Myrtle to various events so that she wouldn't keep popping in on the Loud siblings. So I thought that was good. They recognized both sides of the situation and acknowledged how they were both valid in some way, even if the characters might not have necessarily made the best choices with how they approached it. You could still understand where they were coming from, and I think that is very important. So, yes, I guess the other big detail to talk about with this segment was the fact that the Loud siblings were all on the same wavelength in this segment. Yes, some fans have noticed how there are entries where the Loud siblings have conflict with each other, and some fans have noticed how there is a tendency to usually have Lincoln against the Loud sisters, although sometimes they can mix and match which siblings are in conflict with each other. And to be fair, that does happen in real life. Siblings don't always get along with each other. Siblings can have their fights and conflicts with each other. but siblings can also get along with each other too, and that's what I liked about this segment. This was one of the entries where we actually do get to see the Loud siblings all on the same page with each other, and they all work together. I mean, yes, there were some disagreements here or there, like some of the Loud siblings initially didn't want to go through with the plan to break Albert and Myrtle up, although they eventually did decide to do that. But they all also agreed that it was wrong for them to do that, and they tried to make right about it. So, yes, I thought it was a good call to have an entry where the Loud siblings all were on the same page with each other. I think that is important to remind viewers that the Loud siblings are capable of getting along with each other and being on the same page every now and then. So I thought that was a good reminder, considering how unfortunately some entries have given some fans the impression that the Loud siblings might always be in conflict with each other. So seeing them all get along was a nice change of pace, I felt. So otherwise, I would say that's probably about it for this segment. So like I said, I liked how Albert made a return, since he's probably one of my favorite characters in the show. And I think this segment did a good job showing how Albert can be an example of Beware the Nice Ones. And I also did like how this segment does continue to show how Season 3 has more serialized elements, or is more willing to change the status quo compared to the first two seasons. And like I said, Myrtle is a nice character. It wasn't hard to understand why the Loud siblings were annoyed by Myrtle coming off really strong about spending time with them, but at the same time, Myrtle herself was still a sympathetic character. And hearing about her backstory does give us a little more insight on the character, gives us a better understanding of the character. And like I said, I did like how the Loud siblings were all on the same page with each other. And even though the Loud siblings didn't make the best choice about how they wanted to solve the conflict of this segment, they were still portrayed sympathetically, and they did realize the error of their methods and were willing to apologize for it and make right and make amends for the way they went about it. And yes, the lessons about how everyone has, or different people can have different reference pools, different people can have different experiences, such as how some people have big families, some people have small families, and being mindful about that, and also being mindful about giving people space, not suffocating them by spending too much time with them. Those were all good lessons too. So overall, yeah, I would say this was a good episode. I might favor the A segment more, but I still think that the segment, this was still a good segment, even if I might favor the A segment a bit more. But otherwise, I would say that's it for now. So as of this video, we've now discussed the B segment. Yes, as of this video, we've now discussed the B segment for episode 54 of The Loud House on this channel. Take care, and until next time.